Welcome to News 9 Live, and you are watching On Point with me. In this edition, we will discuss the Rajinder Nagar tragedy and how Delhi has become a victim of a power struggle between Aam Aadmi Party and BJP. On July 27, 3 UPSC aspirants died after they were trapped in the basement library of a civil service examination coaching center in Old Rajinder Nagar. Student protests have continued since last Saturday. One IAS aspirant wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of India stating that IAS aspirants live like insects and have a life of hell.
सर देखिए, कमेटी बनाई गई है और कमेटी बनाते ही सबसे पहला काम ये किया गया है कि मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स के ट्विटर हैंडल पे डाल दिया गया कमेटी वर्क कर रही है, नहीं कर रही है, कोई अकाउंटेबिलिटी नहीं। कमेटी कब रिपोर्ट देगी, कब इसमें इंसाफ होगा, कोई अकाउंटेबिलिटी नहीं सर।
यहाँ पर जितना भी ड्रेनेज सिस्टम था, द रीजन इज यहाँ पर वाटर लॉगिंग का रीजन क्या है। यहाँ से झंडे वालन का जो इंक्लाइन है इट इज 3 to 4 डिग्रीज। यहाँ से राजेंद्र प्लेस का जो इंक्लाइन है दैट इज ऑल्सो 3 to 4 डिग्रीज। पूरा का पूरा पानी बह के इस साइड ऐसे टच होता है। दिस इज अ लो ग्राउंड एरिया। यहाँ के जो सीवर्स थे, इसके इस सड़क के नीचे ही सीवर्स थे, दे आर ब्लॉक्ड। इतना सेल्टिंग हुई है, इतना बारिश का पानी आया है, इस सड़क को खोद के मेरा ख्याल है 10 साल के अंदर 2 बार ही खोदा गया होगा। द सीवर लाइंस विच आर सपोज टू बी चेंज्ड, पहले यहाँ पर 2.5 स्टोरीज मकान थे, अब वो 4 स्टोरीज मकान हो गए हैं। जो रियलिटी चीज है, यहाँ के जो सीवर की लाइंस है दे आर चोक्ड बिकॉज उनका थिकनेस, उनका डायमीटर इतना बड़ा नहीं है, दे कैन अकोमोडेट सो मच वाटर।
हम लोगों का इससे पर्सनल अब जो एजेंडा बन चुका है वो पर्सनल एजेंडा ये है कि ये सब कब तक चलता रहेगा। क्वेश्चन ये है क्योंकि यहाँ पे आपने देखा होगा बेसमेंट्स में ही ज्यादातर लाइब्रेरीज रन हो रही हैं, जो कि एक सच बात है भी। तो हम लोग सिर्फ ये चाह रहे हैं कि जो ये सेफ्टी मेजर्स हैं लाइब्रेरीज और ये बेसमेंट वाली चीजों को लेके, इन पे गौर किया जाए और जो अथॉरिटीज हैं जो इस सब में इन्वॉल्व हैं, जो कि है हमारा आपका MCD हो गया, जल बोर्ड हो गया एंड जो भी हायर अथॉरिटीज हैं, उनका हम लोगों को इन्वॉल्वमेंट एज सच नहीं दिखा। उनके अगेंस्ट
Now this leads us to the question, who is running Delhi? The Delhi government? The civic bodies? Office of LG? It also forces us to ask how Delhi is run on a day-to-day basis. The arm which controls both the MCD and the government was quick to point fingers at LG, appointed officers for not desilting the drains. AAP alleged that the officials are appointed by the LG and refuses to follow government's order. AAP argues that they can't be blamed because BJP has been running MCD for last 15 years and AAP got only control of MCD few months ago. BJP on the other hand says responsibility lies with the state government and ministers should take the responsibility. Now let me tell you that in all this melee, it is Delhi which has become the victim, people of Delhi. And without wasting any more time and ado, let me introduce former Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Dr. Najeeb Jung, who joins me in an exclusive conversation on what's happening in the city. He also wrote an editorial today. And let me come to the point, sir. Do you think that Delhi is a victim of the administrative confusion in context of where the buck lies, where the buck stops?
Karthik, I'll take a moment. Let me first condole on the tragic passing away of 3 young men, 3 young lives, and 1 person earlier also who died of electrocution. The nub of the problem is corruption. So the question that we should first address is the poison of corruption that has seeped into our DNA. The municipal bodies are corrupt from top to bottom. And so, till we can clean up this mess, you can have 100 committees, as these young boys were saying, because once the heat of this tragic moment is over, everything will be forgotten, as is the wont and as is the culture in our country. But let me suggest to you something very dramatic, even if it means a change of law and a change, if necessary, an amendment even to the Constitution. I think, and there are complaints against those who are corrupt and we know them, I think all those against whom there are complaints or there are pending departmental inquiries, there should be an immediate narco test. We will know who is corrupt. This will send a signal across India that should there be a complaint, we'll do a narco test and you'll go to jail. That is the only way of curbing corruption, because people are not scared. You think that you can do an inquiry, I don't care. I'll get away with it. Inquiries take a long time. If you go to court, it's an endless process. I think the only way to do is this. Clean the municipalities immediately. Now, the AAP, I know that the AAP is in charge of the municipalities. So was the BJP and earlier even the Congress. So everyone, every government, no one is absolved of the responsibility to get away with this. You can't say that there is a confusion of authority. You can't say that that because there is a lieutenant governor and he doesn't let the Aam Aadmi function, etc. So somebody is to blame and somebody is not to blame. That, to my mind, is not a good enough excuse. I think that people must be made accountable and be made to work.
Okay, you're saying that the people must be made accountable. But then how do you make people accountable when even in the public narrative, people don't know who's running Delhi and how? Which person?
That's right. That is not true. That is a misconception which a lot of people have, because the Constitution as it stands is very clear. Article 239 of the Constitution makes it clear that Delhi is administered by the Lieutenant Governor, who is in charge of law and order, police and public order, police and land. The other subjects, and that has been clearly enunciated by the Supreme Court also, rest with the state government. If the state government and the Lieutenant Governor are not able to get along for different reasons, then the problem is not in the law. The problem is in personalities that should learn to live with each other. Having said that, let me also say that now that this controversy has come up, and there's a big question mark whether Delhi should continue as a union territory or it should be made a state, that controversy should be set at rest. I would imagine that the union government should have a fresh look at Article 239 and see whether a statehood is in the offing or whether that should be put to bed forever. And then look at measures on how to ensure that there's better coordination between the office of the Lieutenant Governor and the Honorable Chief Minister. Let me also say that prior to 2014, when Mr. Kejriwal, was it 2013? I can't remember, 2014. Prior to the time that Mr. Kejriwal came to power, Delhi has been administered earlier by the BJP and for 15 years by the Congress under Mrs. Dixit. Of course, there were disagreements between the Lieutenant Governor and the elected CM, always. But such disputes were never that they would be in public domain or that the working relationship would be jeopardized. So I think personalities are involved in this case. Let's not blame the system. I think that if the system is to continue, then the personalities have to look at themselves and find a working relationship between themselves. Otherwise, like you are saying, the victim is Delhi. Of course, the current situation is far more serious because the Chief Minister is incarcerated in jail. And that makes the situation very, very serious because you can't have a Chief Minister in jail functioning. And I believe that Mr. Kejriwal has reasons to not resign. I think he has legal reasons, and I also think he has moral reasons. But having said that, there is a practical problem, and the practical problem is that the Chief Minister's constituency is just not the constituency that elects him. The entire city of Delhi is his constituency. So there are constituents and people who must see their elected chief minister.
In your opinion, sir, should Delhi have a new Chief Minister? for a proper administrative functioning.
I didn't get your question, sorry.
Do you think that Delhi should have a new chief minister, a functional chief minister?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that at the moment, with a chief minister in jail, you will have, it's impossible to function.
Correct.
I would say, speaking as objectively, that however good moral grounds Mr. Kejriwal has, he should let somebody else take charge till the moment he comes out on bail. And having said that, again, let me say that Mr. Kejriwal should, I don't know who's telephoning now.
Okay.
Hello?
Mr. Jung, there are two things you have mentioned in the editorial. One was the Balakrishnan report of 1987. I'll come to it a little later. A lot of people say that, there are institutions in Delhi. For example, when we talk about the old Rajinder Nagar episode, you have UPSC aspirants studying there in basements. You have been the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. Why can't we utilize public libraries to help out students? Why can't we revitalize them?
Karthikeya, I was coming to that problem because I think that we have been very lackadaisical, harsh, unfair on the young boys and girls who come to Delhi to make a life for themselves. The problem is not germane just to Delhi. I mean, it's happening in Rajasthan. We hear of the suicides in Kota. It happens in Mumbai. It happens in Madhya Pradesh and other states. These are young boys and girls with fire in their belly who are coming to get selected in jobs which they aspire to all their lives. And not only them, their parents aspire them to get into these so-called big jobs. We are letting them down because they are being administered by an unregulated industry. The first thing they have to do is to regulate this industry. Number two, I think that the government, the first thing they must do is go into building huge hostel facilities. The selection to these hostels can be tough. There can be a mechanism. But the government must take responsibility of making sure that these young boys and girls who come are housed with honor and respectability and in decent comfort. I can agree that you can't house everyone. There are lakhs of them. But let's make a start, number one. Otherwise, the other thing which I wanted to say is the question of libraries. All these residential facilities can have very good libraries. Delhi has a tradition of great libraries. The Lala Hardayal Library, the Delhi Public Library, they have been outstanding libraries. And what has happened in the last 20 years, Lala Hardayal Library is dying. It's almost dead. I don't know about the Delhi Public Library. I haven't been there for some time. But we must energize these libraries and have many more. And what you can do, government has schools, the state government has schools. In the afternoons, you can have classrooms and you can put your books there and children to go and study rather than go and study in these halls. So government can make available schools that do not function in afternoons, that don't have evening classes for these students. Now, these are all things which must be thought through. The tragedy, Karthikeya, is that you're talking to me today and the government is setting up a committee today. In a week from now, let me tell you, and I guarantee this matter will be forgotten. And that, unfortunately, has become our culture. You wake up when there is a tragedy, you weep over it, and in a week it will be forgotten. So let the lives of these three and the fourth also not go in vain. Let the government, rather than looking at who is accused and who is not accused and punishing and not punishing, that will happen. But let the government look at a long-term solution to solve for these young boys and girls who are living just not in discomfort. They are in pain. They are living a very unhealthy life. We are playing with their health.
Mr. Jain, the politics cannot be discounted. Is it correct to say that this adversarial approach has become even more intense because BJP feels that they can come back to power in the state after 25 years?
Look, I don't normally comment on political matters, but let me be upfront that I think with Kejriwal staying in jail, the BJP having won all the 7 seats, they certainly smell power. That if there are incidents like this, to the embarrassment of the AAP government and a dysfunctional Delhi government, then the elections are not far. They are, I think, next year. And therefore, you can, and you have 7 MPs. So, of course, if gaining power is part of the game, then why not? They smell power.
You referred to Balakrishnan report of 1987. Why? I mean, does it hold a mana in terms of resolving issues?
No. The Balakrishnan, there's always been this talk that Delhi should be a state, should become a state or not become a state. That's the point. And so government set up, Mr. Balakrishnan was a retired civil servant, a very senior man, and he traveled the world to come to a conclusion. He went to Japan, he was in Washington, in London, and he gave the examples of all these capitals, which were not states, which were exclusive territories under the central government. And based on that and based on the copious interviews that he had, he gave a report that Delhi should continue as a union territory. Now that is not, that's not cast in stone. It is only indicative and it's a suggestion, but the system has continued. And the system has continued not so much because of Balakrishnan. It has continued because Article 2239. So unless you look at 239 and come to a conclusion, and even the Supreme Court has not looked at it in the sense that we are talking, because this was put up to the Supreme Court when Kejriwal went there, and the Supreme Court said that the Lieutenant Governor shall continue to be where he is, and the system will continue to be as it is, except that in the case of services, they referred it to a larger bench. So I don't know. I would imagine that it's time for union government to set up with very experienced minds, and perhaps look at the problem afresh. After all, Delhi was a union territory when it had a population of 25 lakhs or 30 lakhs or 50 lakhs. Today we are going into 2.5 crores or 3 crores. Maybe it needs a change. Also, I think the first change that has to be made is have a fresh look at the 3 municipalities. 2 of them are financially not viable. The north and the eastern municipality is not financially viable. They can't pay salaries. Good hospitals are suffering. Schools are suffering. Only the south municipality is financially viable. And the decision to break them up was a political decision. It's easy to reverse that decision, at least to make these municipalities viable again.
And before I let go of you, one is to make them viable and another is to make them accountable, because the basic, I would say, experience in context of governance of a common person is that of what is the function of these 3 bodies, which is these civic bodies. Ultimately, so how do you make them accountable? Narco test is like, it's like there.
Bodies will be dysfunctional till they are corrupt. And corruption is in their DNA. Please understand that you can have the best and the most honest Gandhian municipal commissioner on top. He can do nothing, because the corruption stems from the chaprasi till everybody in the engineering department, everybody in the building department, everybody, in the Nazul department.
Are you saying it's completely institutionalized?
Yes, I am saying that corruption is institutionalized, and unless you take very, very, very strong measures, these incidents like this will occur again. And unfortunately, as I said, it is our given that in 10 days' time you will forget it. Every year you have water problem. Every year it is increasing. आप कहते हैं, you are saying now that the footpath, suddenly bulldozers have come out, suddenly everybody is woken up and you're cleaning footpaths because the sewers have been covered. Now tell me, do you have the courage to clean up the footpaths in Vasant Vihar? Do you have the courage to go and clean up the footpaths in Defense Colony, where even there the sewers are being covered? So you will do it today in Rajinder Nagar because the incident has occurred. But will you do it in posh colonies?
Absolutely,
No,
sir.
those are
I
issues.
just couldn't agree more. Not even this encroachment. I mean to say encroachment. Even the poshest of the colony, you have so much of encroachment that the people have to use the road to walk, and the pavements have been taken over. Well, we can have a separate discussion on it. But thank you so much, sir. For pointing out the basic issue, which is corruption in public life, lack of accountability, and inability of the
Not only in public life, also in civil service.
and in civil service, and inability of the state to make them accountable. You have given an example. You have suggested that there should be a narco test. I would say that most important thing is that there has to be some sort of an implementation of a policy whereby civil servants or politicians who are in charge of important functions must feel that if something goes wrong, they will be taken to task. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me in this show. So this was on point number 1. And Najeeb Jung, former Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, point blank telling us that the corruption needs to be tackled, and institutionalized corruption in the civic bodies has become the biggest bane, like cancer, for Delhi. It's time for a short break. I'll be back with more and a peep into what is happening in Paris Olympics.